order. We do have a quorum, all members are present. So first we'll go through the regular business meeting.
That's a bit long, isn't it?
We've got, I know, the invocation, Mike Sabai, we've got him down for that. Pledge, anyone?
Me?
I'll do it.
Oh,
The
yeah, let Gretchen do it.
SYC.
Oh, let them
girls
do
are
it.
here.
Let them
Okay.
do it, yeah.
Winta and Nargis will be here.
Winta,
Winta Mamo, M-A-M-O, and Nargis, Narjisse. K-O-K-O is her last name.
Coco. I like old Coco.
then we have proclamation for the Brookwood Marching Band. Got the approval of the minutes, a report by the SYC. And under new business, we have the IGA with Gwinnett County for the sidewalk project. Anybody have any questions on that?
Are we amending the agenda to include the moratorium?
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
We'll do that under ongoing projects update. Any correspondence? Attorney's report?
Just to give you an update, something we've started, the assistant chief and I were just talking about. We are in the Snellville Pavilion, we are instituting a new kind of procedure for anything that, complaints that are going on there. And what we're going to do is, when there is a complaint called in, the police will send an officer to the disturbance, and they will determine, they'll gather information of the person, get their driver's license, why they're there, that type of information. And if they are doing something that they need to abate, such as idling or actively loading or unloading, they're going to have them stop doing that activity. They will probably not issue any citation unless there's something else going on. But then they will turn those over to Johnny Green, and all of Johnny Green, and then Johnny will take those and he'll decide whether or not there's a violation or not, and then I will prosecute those in quality of life court, and Jay will prosecute those. So that way, there's a standard that it's not different officers deciding whether or not it's a violation, maybe not being familiar with the covenants of that. It'll be very consistent, so they will all document reports. It'll be just like if there's a uniform, turn it over to the detectives and CID unit. Johnny Green will be the CID of code enforcement, for lack of a better term. So, but we have a email group as well that they've set me up on. The mayor's going to get a copy of it as well. So anytime there's an incident, we'll be aware of it and can track it as well. So we think that's going to be a good solution to consistent enforcement of issues at Snellville Pavilion.
Jason's on speaker. Jason has to be home with his kids tonight. His wife has COVID, so he's just going to listen in to the discussion.
Yeah. That's all I got on attorney's report.
Okay. Ongoing projects?
All right, let's see. Kirk Dimitrops will be here about 6:45. So if we can have an executive session for the market update when after he arrives, that'd be great. We have discussed updating schedules with all the contractors. They're being updated now. Just trying to work out, we've always tried to coordinate all of our road work with what's going on adjacent to the right-of-way. The weather has kind of wrecked a lot of things. Some things are moving pretty quick. The buildings on Clower are going well. But we're just going to update those schedules, and I'll get those out to everybody so you can see where we are. Sidewalk improvements, easement and mailbox letters are ready to go out to affected homeowners. That's where we are giving $250 per homeowner to replace the mailbox. We'll put everything back up. They can go out and as long as they can't do masonry or anything special, but the contractor will put all those back up. The easements are just construction easements. Everything will be put back as good or better then the way it is now will work. If somebody has sod, we'll sod the yard or the section that we work on. So we really think all, if not all, very close to all, will be donated. County coordination is continuing. We have the IGA on the agenda tonight. Basically, that's just accepting $800,000 from the county, and we do the work. And interesting, we've got a meeting Wednesday with Gwinnett Water, where we're discussing their coordination with the Pinehurst sidewalk and the utility work that they're doing on Valley Creek. So that should be good. We'll have a chance to bring up several things there. They've been great to work with. The new director will be there, so I'm sure they'll continue to be good to work with. I've changed some of the project names. For instance, city business cleanup, beautification, and I threw sanitation programming in there because I think it's all one there. We're still planning for a new curbside rollout May the 1st. It is on the retreat agenda for discussion. Johnny Green will be there for any code enforcement issues. If you've got any questions regarding Snellville Pavilion or other items there, Johnny, I think that's one of Johnny's favorite days of the year. He loves coming to talk to y'all.
Oh, good.
And he's such a good guy. We're lucky to have him, but he's got a partner now who is equally as effective. So we're doing well there. Mayor and council input, development and zoning guidelines. Obviously, maybe the most important item on the retreat agenda. We will have plenty of maps of the town center and larger areas for to just sit down and look and see what makes sense, because we do have a comp plan update. The 5-year update will be this year. Jason and Matt and I were talking about that. We've got to start work on that, get back in touch with Jacobs and Jim Summerbell and start putting a schedule together for that. Package sales implementation, work session item tonight. I think Melissa made copies of both the application and the draft ordinance. Economic development activities, the Solange from Friday night, we made several good contacts in the business symposium.
Oh, good. Okay.
One lady who's very interested in growing her catering business into a restaurant.
Yeah.
And she has served food to a lot of people over the last 10 years. We talked to her realtor and got her in touch with Kirk and some people, so we followed up on all the contacts there.
Okay, good.
Redevelopment and annexation goals also on the retreat agenda. Briscoe Park, we're starting coordination with Gwinnett on the rec center needs analysis. We don't want to duplicate what Lenore Park is doing, 6 miles from us. Right. So there will be a lot of good discussions with Gwinnett there. We aren't sure exactly what they're planning. They've changed it several times, so we're just going to have some good coordination. And of course, the Lenore Church property, we're open for options, and that also is on the retreat agenda.
By Lenore Church property, what property are you referring
The
to?
horse farm.
That farm.
horse.
The McCart farm.
Okay, okay.
We have
I
to
just wasn't
retain an
sure.
easement to get back to the rock, but
Okay.
there's about, was it 17 or 20? So there's a lot of acreage
Yeah.
there that it was valued at
I just wasn't
750,000.
sure when I saw that if that meant Lenore
Right.
Park or.
Truck parking. Perfect.
North and, what's that?
Truck parking is a perfect.
North and Wisteria, right-of-way acquisition is starting there. We talked to the appraiser today. They're going to give us an appraisal square footage price for those commercial properties down through there. We submitted what I think is a stronger GTIB application for $500,000 to the state last week. Still waiting on GDOT input for the 124 connection. We are responding to the safety audit, being in disagreement with the architect, and thanking them for everything else they did, for what the report came back, but that's an area where we just disagree. So That's all I've got right now.
So under ongoing projects, this is actually a new project, but Todd and I met with our new State House rep, Shelley Hutchinson, on Friday afternoon. Just kind of a sit down, talk about legislative priorities and stuff. I haven't met her before, so it was a good opportunity just to meet and talk. And we had a really good, long-ranging conversation, but one of the things that she brought to our attention and is working on at the state level is that a lot of the vape and CBD stores are actually selling pot, THC products, buds, leaves, rolled cigarettes, everything. She said what brought it to her attention was there's a particular gas station at Five Forks in Dogwood that all of the kids from Brookwood just call it the weed store. And they can pretty much go in and buy whatever they want. And she went in and bought some of their gummies and was able to get them tested by having to go through some heroic efforts to get them tested. And it turns out they are way above the legal limit of what could be in them. But this is happening, and it's not just happening here. And then we had another shop that just opened recently on 124, and she said it's the same name as one that opened downtown, and you could walk in the door and there's glass jars of everything that you might want to purchase there. And we were just informed this weekend that it's the same thing here. So she's working at it from the state level because there's not really any good legislation to regulate this. And it's very hard to find out what they're actually selling. Is it what they're marketing? There's certain things that are legal and then certain things that aren't. And it's very confusing and very difficult. So we know that regulation is not going to be, we're not going to be able to regulate them because you can't do it from the state level. You know, there's just no way to regulate things. So Todd and I talked and we thought if we could just put a moratorium on allowing any new kind of vape, well, we've already got vape is under SUP, but it's any new CBD stores or cannabis stores, put a moratorium for 6 months, see if the legislature could come up with something. It won't allow us to stop anything that's already here, but at least we can keep anything else from opening.
So you can't do anything about the one on 124.
Correct, that we know of at this point. But the goal would be for us to get it at least under an SUP, under the UDO, so that they'd have to come in before they get a business license.
You'd have to write that broad enough, because I could open up a convenience store and sell it.
I know.
If that's not specifically mentioned.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, we talked all through that. And we're not gonna be able to stop, say, a convenience store that's not selling any CBD stuff, we're not gonna be able to stop them from adding it to their,
Yeah.
you know, their products that they sell, because all of that's legal. But if we could just put the moratorium on now so that should any new applications come in for business license or anything, we can deny that and make them go through a SUP process.
This is a draft. We have edited it since this, and Christie, you heard Gretchen. I've actually added it at Todd's suggestion. Everywhere it says, CBD, whatever the word is. And I can't, well, no, the cannabidiol or whatever, but I've added and cannabis-based products to that as well. So that would cover things that maybe technically aren't CBD, but are not supposed to be sold. So basically it mirrors what we did when we did the moratorium on the vape shops before we updated the UDO. Kind of the same thing. So this, we're regulating the stores that primarily would sell this type of stuff.
So if y'all are in agreement to doing something like that, then we would need to do an amendment to the agenda to add a new business item B for a moratorium. Any questions or comments?
So tonight, is this a first?
It's a resolution.
It's a resolution.
Oh, a resolution, okay, I gotcha.
It's not a public hearing.
I gotcha,
It'll just be,
okay.
just be one read and a vote.
Okay,
And it will be number 2, 2023-02. It's an easy enough one.
You got number one in front of you.
Right, I know that number tonight. Can you sign that one, Marie?
And staff did everything correctly under our current regulations. They checked the zoning categories, they were absolutely right in giving the business license. It's just a matter of, it's one of those things that, who knew? Well, David probably knew, but, I mean,
Because he's a user or because he?
no, because he's got his ear to the street, man.
Okay. Item B, discussion about room rentals in private homes. We do have an update. South Fulton just implemented something last week. It was, we caught it at the tail end of the news. Channel 11 had done something on the news for something to try to regulate short-term rentals, and I think it included something with this
They called them rooming houses.
rooming
but-
houses. So, Chuck and Jay are gonna take a look at what South Fulton implemented and see if that's something we could look at for here.
And that was also a topic of conversation with our state representative, that
Yes.
the stress that we're feeling from having those type of housing units being brought into the city. And she was unaware of them, so she was gonna look into it.
She's gonna look at that and see if there's, something that could be moved along with that too. Because it becomes a neighborhood issue. You move into your residential neighborhood, not expecting to have, boarding houses and rooms. And we've got one now I've been working with Johnny on, that there are anywhere from 5 to 6 cars
Oh, yeah.
at night off the driveway, in the yards, in the backyard,
Yeah, always on the
trailer, everywhere. And we shouldn't have to have that in our
And
residential.
there are significant life safety and health issues with them as well. Like septic, any of their own septic tanks,
That's
they're
my
not,
neighborhood.
they're,
Yeah.
they're not equipped for that many people using the bathrooms and causes
Exactly.
problems. The mayor was talking about in South Fulton, they were showing videos of houses where they've just made all these rooms with these little narrow hallways, so if there was a fire, everybody would die.
Well, and
So-
when a property gets a certificate of occupancy, the fire department goes in and looks and makes sure that there's points of ingress, egress, so if there's a fire, people can escape based on 2 people per bedroom. So when you go from 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms to 10 or 12 bedrooms, and they don't have to go back through that process, that creates big issues.
So I really enjoyed our conversation with her. So I feel like she's gonna be somebody that's gonna be really good to work with.
Okay, so but, no, can I just check? Okay, when people are doing that, obviously, I mean, we can see that maybe they are falling on hard times. They don't have money to rent a home or out of a job or whatever the case is. What about if we maybe can have a discussion somewhere down the line about having more like affordable housing for our constituents in the city? Because everything they're building so far is kind of on the steep end, because even teachers within the school are talking to us, to me, And so if maybe somewhere we can have a discussion, because I think that's why all this is going on. People are just on hard times.
Well, I agree that people are moving into those places because they can't
Yeah.
afford anything else.
Yeah.
But I think the people setting up those places are in it for the money.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
easy
It's
money
both
for
ways.
them.
It's
I
both- yeah.
know. But I think the South Fulton thing is not necessarily banning it, but they're limiting where they can go. so that maybe we set up some districts that say these type of rooming houses could go
That's-
here, and if you're gonna do that, you've gotta have a business license and, blah, blah,
Together.
blah. it's
And
gotta
meet
be
life safety
inspected.
codes.
Yeah.
Right.
Because what most of these are is they're kind of coyotes. They're not getting building. They're just literally going to Home Depot, getting drywall, putting
And
doors.
just partition.
They really are. That's exactly what they're doing. And it's just dangerous.
They're taking a house like yours and they're adding 6 more rooms in it by dividing up the living room
Yeah.
and the dining room and the foyer and making bedrooms out of them. And all of those people are using the same bathrooms that you currently have. And that's just not safe. You're gonna have rooms that don't have access to the
Yeah.
outside. So,
But if it,
but I hear what you're saying. I mean, there is
I
a
mean, we
reason why
need-
people
yeah.
are moving in there. And, so, yeah, we'll have that discussion.
okay,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And maybe, since you found that news report, maybe you can send the link out to everybody. And then we can see what was on the news, and
Okay.
then we'll see what their ordinance is, and then that'll give us a basis for some discussion.
Okay.
That way we're talking from something.
You found the link earlier.
Yeah, I can send it out.
Okay. Yeah, Jay found the link. I found the ordinance. So
Okay.
Jay's gonna get it to everybody.
Awesome. Okay. And then the discussion on the package sales process.
So I think we've got a couple things for you. There is an ordinance, but I think Jay has updated. You've updated
This
this?
is the updated alcohol ordinance. Jason and John wanted me to do a mirroring one to update the UDO that has it with it to add package stores. I've got to send that to John and Jason for review, but this is the updated package store ordinance y'all have seen with John and Jason's suggestions, and they didn't really change anything substantive, more of just clarifications on their end. So it's pretty much the same thing you've seen before, just with some slight updates. And then this is a draft package store application. So
And then Jason also asked, we need to set a license fee for the package stores. He's suggesting,
$10 million.
only if you hold your pinky up when you say it. He was suggesting 6,000, so it's kind of consistent with what he's been looking
the
at.
state sets a maximum of $5,000 for distilled spirits. Grayson and Loganville. We have the Loganville City Council, but theirs I think is a little bit higher in the way they. Seems like Grayson does it at least, is they do that 5,000 and then they add their beer and wine license fee on top of that,
Yeah.
because the package.
That's how,
So,
Hey, Jason.
Go ahead, Jason.
and that's how we got to that number too. We added our beer and wine to our distilled spirits for restaurants, and that's how it got to $6,000 for everything.
Makes sense.
So we can't just make it 25% of their gross annual sales?
We get that through excise, so we get
Okay.
that comes another check.
So we can, if everyone's good with that number, we can plug that number then in.
Okay. Well, so it's gonna be real important that everybody goes through this application and thinks about, really kind of put your thinking cap on and think about everything you're gonna wanna know about these applications coming in. We need to make sure it's in here before we release this. Because
Correct,
once we
but,
release this, we may not be able to go back and ask for more.
but the application process, the applicants, the information does not come to us, it goes to staff, right?
It'll go to the committee that's gonna review the applications.
Okay,
they're just checking for completeness though.
right, I just,
Yeah, so the thought is that they'll fill out the application, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, so you can't, don't hold me to this and don't say I lied if it changes. But my thought is that they will complete the application, submit all their information, that will go to staff or a committee, will designate those people. They'll go through all of the information submitted, compare it to the application, and make sure that they qualify under every point. If they qualify under every point, then they're eligible to go into the lottery,
got it.
to be drawn for the license.
Yeah, and just to be clear, that the ordinance qualifications are what kind of trumps everything, and I think Jay did a really good job of making sure that those were all integrated into the application, so that's what we'll review for is just, ordinance, compliance.
Okay,
So it's, if you want, basically, if you want to put it on the application, it needs to have a place in the ordinance too, so we can enforce that part of it.
which is why we haven't finalized the ordinance yet, because we
Right,
wanted to have
correct.
it all
Yeah, just
come
make
together all
sure
at
that
once.
when you think of those things that we have to go back and put them in there if they're not in there.
Needs to be consistent.
Yeah, and want to be clear that at this point, we still are in a draft phase.
Yes.
That we do not have anything that we're ready to vote, that we're voting on yet. 'Cause I
That's
know
what we're
there's-
telling people.
There's a lot of people that keep asking and are very interested.
They wanna see what we
They wanna see
have,
what we have.
what
and so-
date,
so
and-
we-
Yeah.
We still don't, we're not there
No, we
yet.
don't know.
And if any of y'all are reading through this and have changes, call me.
I noticed that we ask if the applicant has ever held an alcohol license that was revoked or suspended. Do we do any other kind of background check on these people at all, or
That, I mean, that's what we gotta look at, I don't know what's on
is that worthwhile, David? I mean, is that something that,
I mean, it couldn't hurt. That's
Yeah.
we can facilitate that if y'all decide to do it.
just think it might be
I
worth
think we need to, because he could be a felon.
it? Yeah.
I wanna say that was already in here, but I
I think
don't
it is,
remember.
isn't there a felony question on there?
For a background check.
I just
So,
think that
background
would be
checks,
some-
every new license holder.
Yeah,
Oh, we
they
do a
currently
background
do.
check on
Yeah.
every new license holder.
Okay.
I know on TV they do, so.
Okay, so if y'all can read this and be ready at the retreat, we can go through, or if you have anything that you're thinking about beforehand, call Jay. And he can talk you through on why he's got it like this, if the stuff that we've already considered or, whatever. Okay? All right. Is that it for the work session then?
I believe so.
We're good for the meeting, so we will go into exec session to talk about the market.
And litigation. We got that one there.
During the work